Hi, we're back again with our next video, which is a continuation of our previous video, tech skills that PM should have. Have you heard things like, it's not the server, it might be DNS.
404 resource not found.
How much should we pay for AWS this month?
Mm-hmm.
If you heard any such jargons or stuff at your workplace, then we got you covered. Today we'll be talking about Internet, API, Cloud, and Webhooks.
Let's start with the Internet. So Internet is basically a huge number of devices all connected in a huge network. So what are these devices? They can be anything from your mobiles, tabs, laptops, and computers, all the way to household devices like refrigerators, air conditioning, and even doorbells. So there's the concept of an internet service provider. These people in today's world are Ziggo, KPN, and T-Mobile. These ISPs, they provide an access point for your device to connect to the larger network. All the devices on this network are largely bucketed into two. One is the servers and the next is the clients. So servers are devices which provide services or have data which is available for clients to access. And clients are devices which access data or avail the services. So how do clients and servers communicate with each other? Just like how we humans have a name and address, these devices also have a URL and IP address. So URL is the human understandable format of the address, for example youtube.com. And IP address is a sequence of numbers, or it's a machine understandable format of the address. There's a DNS, which is domain name system, which helps convert IP address to URL and URL back to the IP address. So now let's understand how all of this falls together into one simple picture. Let's assume you want to watch a video on YouTube. You would go to your browser and you would type in youtube.com. Your ISP or internet service provider is responsible to forward your request to the right DNS. The DNS then converts your URL into an IP address and forwards the request to the right YouTube servers. The response from these YouTube servers comes back in the same path through the DNS, back to the ISP, and then to your mobile device. Simple, isn't it?
Yeah. Now we talked about Internet, let's jump on to APIs. Before I explain about API, let me give you an analogy. Imagine you're at a restaurant and you want to eat your favorite cake. You know the kitchen makes it, but how do you get it? Simple. You ask the waiter. You call the waiter, you make an order as your request to get the cake. The waiter takes the request, goes back to the kitchen and gets you the food or the cake. The waiter acts as a messenger between both the parties. The waiter is the API. API works exactly same way. It's a messenger between two parties. The parties can be two software applications. To interact the data or information between these two parties back and forth based on some set of protocols, definitions, etc. API architecture majorly uses some jargons like client, request, response, and server. A software application, which is making the request, is the client. A software application, which is receiving the request, processing it, sending back the response, is the server. Now connecting back, you are the client. You wanting the cake is your request. The waiter is the API which takes this request to the kitchen, which is the server. And once the food is ready, the food is being brought back to you, which is the response. To give you a little bit more real life example, let's talk about Amazon. Everybody, like if you're thinking about shopping, what do? You use your mobile, open your app, which is a mobile application, or you open your laptop or access the Amazon via your web application. That front end is the client. Let's say you put something in the cart. Once you add it to the cart, the request is taken to the backend server via the API and the processing is done. Once everything is done, a response is rendered. Now, what is this response? This could be like order completed, purchase made, payments finished, etc. There are majorly 4 types of API: SOAP, remote procedure call, WebSocket, and REST. REST is most common and most popularly used one because of the flexibility it provides.
So 4 of the main functions of the REST API are the first, get, to retrieve information, post, to send information, put, to update information, and delete, of course, as the name suggests, to delete information. So let's go to the next topic. Everyone thinks the cloud is rocket science, but let me tell you, simply put, cloud is a fancy name for the internet. Let's understand this with a much more relatable example. I don't know why we always go back to food, but imagine you're super hungry. Okay, you have two options here. The first one, to prepare your own 3-course meal, or the second option is to go to a buffet and enjoy the wide range of options available.
I like the buffet.
So in our comparison today, preparing your own meal is equivalent to building your own infrastructure. And enjoying at a buffet is equivalent to enjoying the cloud and its services. When you want to prepare your own meal at home, you would have to purchase all the ingredients on your own, invest the time and effort to cook the meal. Similarly, when you are building your own infrastructure, it has high initial costs and you need to spend the time and resources to develop the infrastructure. On the other hand, cloud and its services are readily available for you. That brings us to a few of the advantages of cloud. Firstly, on-demand provisioning. Basically, you get to ask what you want, when you want, and when to stop. You can focus on what's important to you, and all the hardware requirements in the background, system capacities, configurations, number of servers, everything will be handled by the cloud based on your demand. Next is scalability, which means you can scale your system horizontally. That means using a wide range of cloud services, or you can scale your system vertically, which means increasing the capacity of the system itself. This way, when traffic goes up and down, you can automatically adjust the number of servers allocated for the required capacity. Lastly, there are sufficient alerting and monitoring mechanisms and services in place which help you measure your usage. That way, you can monitor and ensure that your AWS bills are always in check. I refer to AWS because that is one of the most prominent cloud service provider. It stands for Amazon Web Services, but there are two more prominent players in the space. The first one is Microsoft Azure, and the next one is Google Cloud Platform.
Now we know about cloud, let's jump on to Webhooks. Before this, we talked about APIs. API is just a two-way communication between two entities or parties. Unlike APIs, webhook is a one-way communication between a server and a client based on an event triggered. To give you an example, we all have post boxes, right? If somebody wants to post a letter, let's say I want to post a letter to Sneha, I'm not going to go to our home or city and put it in the post box. That doesn't make sense. So what I do is I will go to the post office. I'll go to the post office, put a letter with the address, and the post office takes care of sending it to Sneha. Now, putting some jargons to it, how do post office know where to send? The address. In case of a webhook, the address is nothing but a callback URL which gives the information to server that where it needs to push the information to. So here the post office acts like webhook, and the address, which is the participant's address or Sneha's address, is the callback URL. To put in a nutshell, webhooks is nothing but a one-way communication between the server and the client. Server tries to push the data or information whenever any event is triggered by having the details such as callback URL. The major components of webhook is the body and the URL. Body is nothing but the data which needs to be transferred, and URL is nothing but the address which gives the information to server where it needs to be transferred. Most famous things like SMS, notifications, messages, etc., which is like push kind of notification, are based on webhooks. With that, we've come to the end of our video. Of course, there's a plethora of options which we need to learn as a product manager in terms of tech, but we thought this is the most relevant one.
So I want all of you guys to be observant and try to tell us what is the most recent interaction you had with any webhook. Let us know in the comments. I'm Sneha.
I'm Sindhu. Adios.
Stay tuned for our next video.